Alrighty, so I'm back over here at the El Camino. I got it pulled up front and center here in the shop so I can work on it. And we gotta get the front up in the air, get the wheels off, and tear apart the old brakes and show you exactly what went wrong because it's pretty gnarly. So let's get after it. So behind this wheel right here is the real reason that I have to change my brakes. If you can see in here, there is some pretty serious carnage that happened and everything ended up on the inside of this wheel. Normally, that doesn't quite look like that. It looks a lot better. And it's hard to see exactly what went wrong in here without taking it apart, but you can see that caliper right there is awfully chewed up, and that's because the wheel bearing inside the hub failed, the inner bearing, and that allowed the rotor to get a little crooked, which then let it eat the caliper. And it ate the caliper so much that all the brake fluid came out of it because there's a reservoir on both sides as well as some channels that connect both sides of the caliper together, and it definitely ate into where the brake fluid was. So that happened. And you can kind of see on the inside as well, except there's a leaf there. Everything's pretty chewed up. Not good. So I'll get this apart and show you in further detail exactly what went wrong. Always check the grease in your wheel bearings before a trip. Granted, my car wasn't actually supposed to go on that trip. It was a bit of a last minute switcheroo when Taylor's satellite decided it didn't like sustained highway speeds. It's always something. Alrighty, well I got everything apart in here enough to show you exactly what went wrong. This inner wheel bearing right here failed at about 100 miles an hour on the freeway. And when that happens, that allows your hub to kick a little sideways, and as a result, everything starts binding on each other. So you see this bracket right here? It used to look like that and have a little standoff off of it. Well, now it's ground down flush and a little past flush. And that's because the rotor itself was eating into it. And you can see here, there's some pretty serious grooves in the rotor. And in addition, when the bearing failed, this race was riding on the actual spindle itself right there. And it ate up where the wheel seal goes and everything. So this is all junk. There's no reusing any of this. The spindle itself, I believe we actually saved, and we hammered this new wheel bearing onto it in some little tiny town in Mississippi, right in the town square. It was a pretty picturesque scene while we worked on the car. But as a result, this bracket is junk. The caliper itself actually got eaten through to the point where brake fluid was leaking out of it. So that's junk. And I gotta replace all of it. So I figure while I'm at it, I'll refresh both sides with brand new parts from Wilwood because I really like this setup. Now, this failure is pretty stupid. It's only because I didn't check my wheel bearings before I went on the trip. Granted, it was a last minute deal where we switched cars after Taylor's satellite decided it didn't want to run 80 miles an hour down the freeway without trying to lock up. So check your wheel bearing grease, people. It's very important. And you wouldn't be doing any of this. Yeah. Stupid as the stupid does, though, right? Also, you should let this be a testament to exactly how tough these old cars are. Even when something fails that spectacularly, we were able to cobble it together on the side of the road. You know, we used a roofing nail as our cotter pin, and whatever we had laying around, all we had to really buy was a brand new bearing. So, go out and drive your junk, and if it breaks, you could probably fix it on the side of the road with baling wire. Maybe a bit of duct tape and zip ties too, but get out and drive your junk, people. Yeah, I really need to clean in here too. I installed all these brand new QA1 goodies and they're already filthy. But that's what happens when you drive your stuff. Still looks pretty good though. Now in theory, this side, the driver's side, is totally fine, but I'm still gonna change it out because why would I have one side with new brakes and one side with old brakes? So, Got to pull this apart and inspect it as I go and see if there's anything wrong with it. Should be good though. Now that we've dug into the El Camino and seen exactly what's wrong with it, it's time to take a trip down to Summit Racing and get some parts to fix it. Love having this place so close. Yeah, buddy, here we go. Love this place. I mean, just everywhere you look, there's stuff you want. Big block Chevys with blowers on them. There's a funny car up there, some stock cars, wheels for days. So much good stuff. Like that, we've got the goods. Fresh Willwood disc brake kit, there to replace all the parts we broke on the El Camino. Yeah, buddy. You excited, Moby? He just wants to go for more car rides. So yes, he's excited. When I fix my car, he gets to go for a car ride. Go for a car ride? Yeah, he wants to go for a car ride. So I just got back from Summit Racing and I went with the Willwood Forged Dynalite Pro Series with the 11-inch rotors. I ended up with black powder-coated calipers because that's what they had in stock. And this will still fit behind my 15-inch wheel, and it's pretty much the exact same kit I already had. What do you think about it, Moby? Anyway, we're gonna get into this box, do a little unpacking, and then show you all the pieces. Yeah, buddy. And here we go. It's unboxed. And if you've never bought a kit from Willwood, I'll run you through kind of everything that comes with the kit. And it's everything you need to put it on the car. So not only do you obviously get the rotors, the hubs, and the adapters from the hubs to the rotors, you get spacers, you get the brackets for the calipers themselves, which are quite pretty, and then all the necessary hardware as well as the bearings to make everything work. They even include the seals to keep all your grease inside, and even brake pads. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. And I am not just doing the brakes on this episode as I get ready for my road trip. I'm going to do some things for the looks. My friends over at Auto Metal Direct here sent over a front and rear bumper as well as a driver's side fender for the El Camino, because those parts on my car are very beat up. They're scratched up, dented up, pitted, and these are going to look so much better on there. So if you need any parts for your car, go check out Auto Metal Direct for some direct replacement quality parts. I'm a huge fan of this company and the way they do business, and I'm excited to have some of their parts on the El Camino. I'm not sure I'm going to get to installing the fender, but I'm at least going to do the bumpers because I want to paint this and make it nice, and I'm not sure I'm going to take the time to do that right now. But, yep, we're getting all kinds of goodies for the El Camino this time. Yeah, buddy. I'm back over at the El Camino, and my dad influenced me to pull this bearing off because I was just gonna leave it on there because we had just put it on, and I figured it wasn't really hurt yet, and naturally that went horribly wrong. The bearing did not want to come off of there, but we did get it off in the end.
Father knows best.
It actually broke coming off, so that's interesting. It broke, I think it cracked completely in half. There's a crack all the way through it. That's pretty wild, but the spindle is honestly in fairly decent shape, considering what we did to it. So I think this is still gonna work. It barely ate into the bottom of it down here, right there. You see that? But that's honestly not really gonna affect it at all, in my not so professional opinion. So I guess let's slam it back together. Just like that. And you gotta slide this guy in. Put on the little washer. Thread on your nut. Once you've got your rotor slid into place, you want to tighten that sucker down, and a lot of people have different methods, but I like to tighten it really tight while I'm spinning it to seat the bearings, and then back it off a little, and then just kind of snug her up. Because if you go too tight, you're gonna burn up your wheel bearings, and that's not good. That seems perfect.
What does Willwood say?
I don't care. I don't read instructions.
Yeah.
But you will want to check this again in the near future. You slide your cotter pin in, she's good to go. Then you just repeat the same for the other side. This one's not gonna go on as easy, I will say, because the spindle's a little messed up, but that's okay, we'll make it work. Don't do what I do, people. Alrighty, it's time to install the caliper. And to do so, you need to center it over the rotor. And they send these little washers right here to help out with that. So, a little trial and error and a bit of measuring, and you'll get it centered. That's looking pretty good with 2 washers. So now that we've got everything assembled, all we have to do is slide the brake pads in, connect the brake hose, and bleed the brakes. And before you put your brake pads in, make sure you wipe your rotor off with some brake clean, because you don't want any crap getting on your brand new pads and ruining them. So now that I've got those brakes all dialed in and ready to go, it's time to change out the bumpers. Yeah, buddy, that busted old front bumper's coming off of there, and we're putting a new one on from Auto Metal Direct. It's gonna look so much better. Thing always looks like it's snarling with that dent right there, and I've never liked that. So, it's time to fix it. right, now that we got the front bumper off, it's time to take the back bumper off because this thing is all kinds of bent up here in the corner. I had this thing loaded down when I did the LS swap and actually hooked that corner of the bumper driving into a gas station, about ripped the bumper off. So needs a new one back here as well. So let's get this sucker off. And just like that, the bumper's off. I will say it did not go easily. The outer bolts here and here came off no problem, but this center bolt right here, I had to cut it off with a death wheel because it was so locked up. Couldn't get it loose. But now that the old ones are out of the way, we're making room for the new bumpers. And we'll start a fresh collection of rubber back here. Some of this is actually from my buddy Aaron Sellers. And for those who don't know the story on this car, my buddy Aaron owned this car and unfortunately passed away in an accident, so I bought it from his family just to keep his memory alive. And his shop was Pacific Fabrication, and therefore his Instagram handle was Pack Fab. So his name's on the car, going with me on adventures everywhere I go, making more memories. I miss that dude every day, but at least I get to remember him by his car. Well, it's been a couple days and I've been waiting on some parts to show up so I can finish putting the bumpers on this car. One of my front bumper brackets was bent pretty severely, and as a result, I went ahead and bought a full set of brackets for the front of this car so that I can get this thing on there and straight and level and exactly how I want it. So now that that's here, it's time to put the bumpers on the car. Oh man, I just got the front bumper out of the box, and man, does this thing look good. It's still got a little bit of the oil from shipping on it, but once that's cleaned off, this thing is going to be beautiful. Woo, buddy. Nothing like new chrome. Autometal Direct, man. It's where it's at. So nice. So here's what I was talking about with my old bumper bracket being bent. This sucker was bent a ton. You can see how it's supposed to flow like that. Instead, it's bent way up. Doesn't line up at all. So I got this new set of bumper brackets that are already painted, ready to go on the car that I'm going to toss on my brand new bumper. And everything should, in theory, jive together. We'll see how it goes. And for those wondering why this says Chevrolet Chevelle 67 instead of El Camino, it's because the front bumper was the same on the Chevelle as the El Camino. So they didn't really have a designation. But for the rear bumper, it's actually listed as a Chevrolet El Camino rear bumper because it was not the same as the Chevelle. So there you go. If you're looking for bumpers for your El Camino, only the rear bumper is specific to the El Camino. The front is also on the Chevelle. So I got my inner bumper brackets attached to the bumper the way that they go on. They may require some adjustment once I test fit it to the car, but I tightened them down anyway just in case they just went right into place. You never know, you might get lucky. And to protect your bumper, make sure you put it on a soft surface, a blanket in the bed of a truck or something like that so you don't scratch it all up. Let's put this sucker on the car. There's one bolt. My finger's stuck. There's two bolts. Let's get one more in there. Ow! That hurt. There we go. Now we're in business. Ooh, buddy, that looks good. Ooh, man, that looks nice and snazzy. I will say it does need raised up into place and tightened down, but you can get the overall picture just by, there went one of the bolts. That's not important, but there you go. It looks so good, but I am noticing that my car desperately needs a paint job now that I've got that shiny new bumper on there. Yeah, that bumper looks way too good for this car, but look at it. I'm a fan. So shiny and nice and new. Look at the rest of the trim, though. That's terrible. Yep. Oh, well. Now that we've got the front bumper wrapped up, other than attaching my Heartbeat of America license plate. It's time to move on to the back, so let's get that out of the box and see what we're working with. Whew. Stay up there, please. This is difficult to do by yourself. All in the face. It's all in my face. Get another one on this side. Lovely. Alright. Now let's not drop it down over this far. There we go. That's not too bad. Look at that. It's basically installed. Next on the list for the El Camino, I need to change the fluid in my gear vendor overdrive. And for those who don't know what that is, it's an auxiliary overdrive unit that bolts to the back of your transmission. So I have a TCI Street Fighter Turbo 350 in here, and bolted to the back of it is an auxiliary overdrive that gives you a 0.76 overdrive, and it's its own fluid system, doesn't use any fluid from the transmission, so got to take loose that bolt right there and change the fluid out. Love this thing, it's freaking awesome. And they'll handle like 1200 horsepower, the base model. They'll handle anywhere up to 4,000 or 5,000 horsepower in some rigs. Rick Johnson at Gear Vendors hooking me up. See how bad this fluid looks. I've put too many miles on this thing between a fluid change, but, you know, it's a long freaking bolt. Fluid's a little dark, but we're going to throw some fresh stuff in here, make it all nice and pretty. Takes about a quart of fluid to fill this thing up. And there we go. It's almost empty already. Doesn't take a whole lot of fluid to make this thing work. Next on the list, I need to fix that roadside repair because it has failed me multiple times. That's some 10 gauge electrical wiring with a butt connector that was holding my exhaust up. And there was a bit of a wild ride on my last trip that resulted in both of them breaking off. I think I'm just going to put a bolt in the hanger on that side over there. On this side, the hanger actually broke off, so baling wire to the rescue. You can fix everything with a roll of wire. And just like that, she's fixed. And rather than putting the bolt in on that side, I went ahead, just to make it symmetrical, put the baling wire on there too. Working like a charm. Yeah, buddy. Look at all that QA1 goodness under there. This thing is a little messy and gross, but it's got good parts on it. Pretty much the furthest thing from a morning person, but I'm such a night owl that often I find myself awake to see the sunrise, and the sun is up again and I haven't slept. But look at the El Camino. It's sitting nice and pretty back on the ground. Those new bumpers look so freaking good. They're too nice for this car for sure. The car really needs a bath. That might help a little bit, but those bumpers look so out of place because they're so nice. But we got the brakes all fixed. They're ready to go. Cleaned up the wheel because it was utterly filthy from that whole debacle. I put my bigger tires back on the back, my 275 Mickey Thompsons. And look at that rear bumper. Man, that thing looks good. So now that I have a nice, shiny new bumper, it's time for the first bumper sticker. You guys are going to dig this one. Oh yeah. Dan Gurney for president. If you don't know what that sticker's from, that is a reference to the Cannonball Run. Yeah, buddy. Alrighty, guys. Let's see how the new brakes feel. This thing sounds so good. I've got a brake pedal, so that's a good sign. When I pump it, I actually have resistance. Let's see if she stops. Oh, doesn't move with brake pressure. Alright, it's rolling. Oh yeah, she stops good. Oh yeah, we are good to go. Yep, it works. All right, so I'm at my buddy James's house, and the El Camino has been representing Hot Rod Magazine for a little too long. I know we did this livery when I went on Power Tour, and it was very fitting for that, but now I'm starting my own shop, so it's time to take all the decals off the El Camino to make room for some new Sally Speed Shop graphics. Yeah, buddy. Let's get after it. Don't forget to check us out for daily content on Instagram at Jacob Ross Davis and the shop page at Sally Speed Shop. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you like, what you didn't like, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.